There's a specific kind of mental exhaustion that doesn't come from doing too much. I know, right? It comes from thinking. Hey, Mama. Welcome to the Creative Mama's Journey. Thinking too much and starting too little. Of course, it's not because you're lazy, because, come on, we're always doing something. And it's definitely not because you don't care. And it's not a lack of discipline either, but it's because your mind is constantly full of ideas that never get the space to actually fully develop in real life, right? Because we have all these ideas in our minds, we write them down, we voice note about them, we share them, but that's the end of it. You think about starting things. You plan them ahead in your head. How many of you have done that? I know I'm guilty of that. And then you imagine how they feel once they finally come to life. Once you actually finally begin to bring them to life, you get excited by the potential, right? You may even tell yourself, this time I'll actually do it. And then guess what? Life happens, right? Something interrupts it. Something urgent comes up. Your energy and focus suddenly shift. Your attention gets pulled elsewhere. And guess what? The idea gets quietly pushed to the side, to the bottom of the list. Not once, not twice, but over and over again until it becomes a pattern. And slowly, without even noticing it, something starts to change inside you. You actually stop trusting your ideas, not because they're wrong or not because you have the wrong ideas or you shouldn't be thinking those ideas, but it's because in doing all this, you have trained your brain to expect interruption. Believe that? You have trained your brain to expect interruptions. And that expectation changes everything on how you deal with your ideas. So, what moment did you start doubting yourself? Now, we don't realize the exact moment this shift happened. It doesn't feel dramatic because if something really big, lights, fireworks happen, you're like, okay, look, you're shifting. You would know that, right? And it doesn't feel like it's a decision because we don't go into it saying, okay, I have this idea, but I am not going to do it. Now, that could come up if something is really out of your scope or if your interest changes, the idea is no longer viable. But actually making a decision to not do it for something that you were excited about, come on. We don't do that. Now, it feels like a slow accumulation of small disappointments. And this is when all this doubt starts happening, right? So you start something and then you stop. You start again, and guess what? Yes, you got it. You stop again. Now, at first, you don't really think much of it, right? But after this happens many times over, enough times, your brain starts to draw conclusions, right? You start thinking, well, I guess I'm not consistent. I never follow through. I can't stick with anything. Oh, I get that. I always stop and start or start and stop, right? And those don't feel like lies at first, the lies that you're telling yourself. They feel more like observation of what's going on. But as you repeat it, guess what? They turn into identity. Yes, you slowly turn it into an identity. An identity quietly shapes your behavior. Not because you want it, it just happens. Now, if you believe that you are someone who doesn't finish things, you begin to approach new ideas differently. you start hesitating, you start doubting yourself, doubting the idea, then you have emotional distance from your idea because you don't want to invest emotionally in it. You protect yourself from disappointment by not fully investing in your own idea. Now, this is not a motivational problem. So, one of the biggest misconceptions that we carry about is the belief that consistency comes from motivation. And this is something that I have to remind myself about a lot, right? So, we struggle with the follow through. So, you assume, okay, I just need to try harder. Oh, I need to be more disciplined. I have a plan, like I have this plan to make it work, and then it doesn't work, and I reevaluate. I keep on looking at the plan, and you don't need more discipline, right? Or you start thinking, I need better systems, right? I have tried Notion. I have tried, what is it? Not Airtable, but like all these different, I'm not saying that they're wrong, right? A physical planner. I have tried, what's this other program that's like, it's not almost like Airtable, but it's not Airtable. I haven't tried Airtable. I have been tempted to look into it, but I'm like, that's just one more thing I'm going to add that's not really going to address what's going on. So all these things are good, and they help you, but the thing is sometimes we hide behind the gadget, the system. So we start thinking, yes, I need a better system so that I can be more consistent. That doesn't work. Then you start thinking, I need more accountability. Well, that does work to some extent, but it's not the real answer because you can have somebody, like I can have my sisters telling me, did you do that? Did you do it? I'm like, oh no, I didn't do it because of this, and that. Oh yeah, I started it, but that didn't happen. So what's the use of accountability if you're not sorting out the main issue? Right? It does help. Don't get me wrong, accountability helps. Having a community helps. But all those areas, all those types of accountability, family, community, friends, they have their own place in helping you. But they're not going to help you be consistent if you do not make a point of being consistent yourself. Right? So all of these excuses or these the thoughts that run through your head, they all miss something deeper. Of course, it's not the lack of motivation because otherwise you wouldn't be thinking up more ideas, right? It's your lack of continuity, right? So motivation helps you start. Continuity helps you continue. Yeah, and you starting and stopping all of your ideas, things that you do so frequently that momentum never has a chance to build. Okay, think about it like this. Every time you start something or you restart, every time you restart something from zero, you actually erase all the progress that you had beforehand, right? The progress that your system was beginning to build, the progress that your idea and the actions that you were taking with your idea started to unfold. You erase those. Then you reset the emotional cost of investing in that idea. You reset the learning curve because now instead of continuing from C, you're going back to A. So how does that help you? Then you also reset the identity formation because as we're building on our ideas, we are also building up our identity. And if you start resetting, if you go to the beginning, stop and then start from the beginning, you have basically erased anything that was starting to shape your identity in regards to this idea. So instead of building momentum, you are constantly rebuilding the beginning. It's almost like you're going up an escalator and you get to the fourth step and you're like, wait a minute. No, I'm using the wrong foot. It's an example, right? So you go, you make your way back down and you start. So you keep on repeating that. You're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to be going to the beginning all the time and starting over. So the beginning is actually the hardest part. So why would you want to go back to the hardest part? Just with the escalator example. The first step is the last step is too, but you're already going forward. But that first step, if you don't get your balance right, it's not a pretty picture. Just realize that the beginning is always the hardest part. So why do you want to keep on going back to the hardest part? Continue. Now, of course, there is an invisible burden of having unfinished ideas. Now, we don't talk about this enough. We don't talk about the emotional weight of unfinished ideas. Now, of course, it's not because that they are inherently heavy or that they're too much for you to have or to hold or to start or to even think about. It's because of what they represent over time. Okay? Each unfinished idea becomes a silent reminder. Eesh. So what is it reminding you? When you look at all your unfinished ideas, what is it reminding you? You didn't finish that. You didn't follow through on that either. You started that and stopped. And then over time, this creates a background narrative in your mind that everything that you start, you're going to stop. Even if you're not consciously thinking about that, it's going to shape how you see yourself. Right? If you always think about all those statements, it's going to be sitting in the back of your mind. And every time you want to start something, you stop yourself because of what you've been telling yourself unconsciously. And this is where things can get really tricky because the real impact is not unfinished projects. Yes, you want to finish projects, but sometimes projects are not really meant to be finished. What's actually happening, it's the erosion, the gradual disappearance of your self-trust, or you're trusting yourself in regards to ideas and working on ideas. When you stop trusting yourself, you stop starting things freely. Okay? You begin filtering your desires through doubt. So you hesitate before you commit. You second guess your own interests. Praise that. You second guess your own interests. You begin living in a space where your ideas just feel optional instead of meaningful. And that's very sad. So now why should you start? Why should starting over keep you stuck? I mean, we've seen that you keep on starting over, you're at the same spot all the time. But why? And one of the most common patterns that I see with overwhelmed moms is what I would term as the fresh cycle, the fresh start cycle. Okay? So it looks like this. You begin something, right? Yeah. Life interrupts. That's okay. It's the nature of being a mom. Time passes. Now, instead of picking up where you left off, you restart. You get a new notebook. I'm guilty of that. I need to make sure I get a new pen too. Even though I have pens, I get a new pen too. You have a new plan. Well, yeah, because you didn't finish the last time, so it must be the plan that's the problem, right? You get a new system. Yeah, plan after planner or a digital helper guide. or system to help you. You're like, that first one didn't work. That's not working. Okay, I need something different that will help me. New motivation. Yay, I'm going to do it this time. New version of yourself. You think, okay, I need to be more disciplined. I need to be this. Come on. But it feels good at first, right? You're like, ooh, I'm starting off fresh. It feels clean. Let's go. It feels like you have control over everything, right? But then you don't realize that restarting has hidden costs. It has one main hidden cost. It removes that progression that continuity had, or that continuity brings, a progress that it brings, right? And what continuity does is that it helps you build trust in yourself, trust in your idea, trust in the fact that you can keep on going even though life happens and you get interrupted, that you can just keep on going with your idea and making it come to life. So think about a conversation, okay? If you pause in a conversation and return to it later, do you start from the beginning? No, you don't start from the beginning most times. You actually continue, right? But for some reason, with personal goals, we keep returning to the starting line. And that constant reset, back and forth, that constant reset quietly reinforces the belief that I can't sustain anything. You may not say it out loud, but somewhere deep down in your subconscious, you're going to keep on thinking that I cannot sustain anything. I cannot work on anything and get halfway. I cannot. But even though the real issue is not sustainability, it's interruption prevents you from returning, right? So the real issue is not sustainability. But because you don't have that inbuilt in you, or you haven't developed that, it stops you from returning once you're faced with an interruption. So I just want you to think about this, okay? The real problem isn't follow through. Now, here's something important. You don't have to have a follow through plan, okay? Because you don't have a follow through problem. You have a return problem. So you are following through because you're going back to the same idea, right? But you're going to the front, to the beginning, to the start. So what the problem is, yes, you are returning, but are you returning to where you were? Are you actually starting over? So it's not a real return. That's why the problem is a return. If I had gotten to C when I came back, whether it's a day later, an hour later, months later, years later, I would want to start off from C and continue, or go to D. Now, if time has passed, of course you would want to go back to A and kind of refresh yourself, but you're basically not changing anything, right? You're just going to be looking it over. So like, okay, yeah, I remember. And you keep on going from there, okay? And guess what? You have been doing the returns in many areas of your life. Think about it. You return to your kids. You return to your responsibilities, to your household, to your spouse, to your obligations. You are constantly returning, except not to yourself. And that's a part that we tend to overlook it. Like, again, we're at the bottom of the list. We get crossed off not because it's none, but because something else is taking its place. You were extremely consistent with everything else that requires you, but not always with the things that require you to choose yourself. So you were consistent with everything else that you were involved in, you were needed in, you helped with, but you were not consistent with something that is for you, right? Something that's for you. I'm pointing at myself because I'm speaking to myself too. Something for you, right? So we need to have a shift from finishing to continuing. How do we shift to finishing from finishing to continuing? Because when we put pressure on ourselves to finish something, we never really knew it. But if we shift the focus to continuing, it will be a lot better. So the goal is not about becoming somebody who finishes everything. Yes, it would be cool, finish, but that's not the goal. And that's unrealistic and unnecessary because as busy moms, we don't necessarily have the luxury all the time of finishing. But the goal is to become somebody who continues. Okay? Even after life interrupts you, even after a delay, even after you lose momentum. Now, this is what continuity looks like. Returning to an idea without shame. Yeah, have fun. You don't have to worry about, oh, I only got to this. Oh, I haven't touched this in 2 months. Don't shame yourself. That's not going to help you. Just be excited that you are actually returning and continuing, right? Picking up where you left off instead of starting over. Now, of course, this can be based on certain circumstances. Like, for example, if your idea was, say, for example, I don't know, something that keeps on changing, right? So, of course, you might have to start from the beginning or close to the beginning or overhaul the beginning, the start, if you're in an industry or if your idea is an industry that keeps on changing, keeps on having really quick advances, then I can understand that. But no, you should not be starting over. You should be continuing with your idea. Okay? Now, allow for progress to exist even if things become messy. Let me tell you, you don't have to be like, oh, I can only progress if I spend 30 minutes. No, you can spend 5 minutes, 1 minute, even if it's just writing down what your next step's going to be. That is progress. And that's continuing. Don't allow a busy life to stop you from progress because you can always progress with the little pockets of time and do something that would advance your idea. Not erasing the effort just because it wasn't perfect. Ooh, I had to learn this. I was building an app. I was learning to build an app. I wanted to build a planner, and I started doing it. So I actually did it, but I got a hiccup at the end. But it's funny, like when I got to certain issues that were beyond my scope and I had to learn how to do it, I felt like just scrapping the whole thing and starting over. But that would have been erasing hours. I say hours of work. Now, you may not have spent hours on your idea, but even erasing the progress that you have made will still hurt and will still affect you negatively, especially if it's because you're erasing it because it's not perfect. Yes, if you're in club perfectionism or you're in trying to get over perfectionism like I am, you of course want things to be perfect. You want things to look a certain way. But that it should not be something that stops you from moving forward. Because as we know, perfection doesn't exist. I could be like, oh, when I get to this point, it'll be perfect. But guess what? I get to this point and my eyes are already looking further because I'm like, wait, this is not perfect anymore. This is perfect. You get it? So with perfectionism, if that's what your focus is on, you're never going to progress because you're always going to be editing, fixing, erasing. Okay? So you are not, want to encourage you not to erase the effort that you already put into it. Okay? I want you to continue from where. Yes, you can edit here and there if things don't work, if things affect the next steps. But don't erase it because it doesn't look like what your imagination. Okay? So just realize that the act of continuing, that builds trust in yourself. You trusting yourself more. You trusting the fact that you are able to move past the start, the go point. Like in Monopoly, you always you start at go and you have to make your way around. So if you keep on going a little bit and then going back to go, the starting point, I mean, not to get the money though, that's fun. But starting over and you have to go back around and start over, you're wasting time. You're wasting your effort. And at the end of it, you're not even going to think it's worth it. And Mama, let me just tell you that you are worth it. Your ideas are worth it. You working on your ideas is important. And I mean, it's important to those around you, but it's most important to you. Okay? So let's not focus on perfection. So if you want to begin changing this pattern of starting and stopping, I want you to think about starting here. So start here, right? Make one. Yes, I know we have tons of ideas in our heads and notebooks, but I want you to make one idea visible, okay? Not actionable. Because we're starting slowly, okay? So not actionable, not optimized, not planned. I would take an idea and keep on planning it and all that and just run with it. No. We're going to start small. Get one idea visible. Make one idea visible. Just visible. You could write it down. Okay, so after you write it down, speak it out loud. Because when you also hear what you're reading, it internalizes it internalizes it more. Okay? Then I want you to keep it in front of you. Okay? Because invisible ideas stay hypothetical. And hypothetical ideas feel optional. We don't want your ideas to feel optional. I don't want your idea to feel optional. You get it? No, I don't want you to feel optional, that your ideas are optional. So keep it visible. Okay? Visible ideas start to feel real. And when something starts to feel real, your brain begins to treat that idea differently. Yay! So you have to work on your self-trust. We're building your self-trust. And it's not by having big wins, although big wins are nice, don't get me wrong. But building self-trust, trusting yourself that you can get past start and stay past start. It's about those small actions, those small steps that you've taken. So self-trust is built through small evidence, right? Because you get past A, you're like, yay, I went past A. You keep on doing it, you get to J, You're like, oh my word, I just finished a J. You see that? Every step, all those small steps, you're excited. You're like, I can do this. I can do this. And you start building trust in yourself, building trust that you can actually work an idea and keep on going, continue going. So every time you continue, instead of restarting, you are rebuilding trust in yourself. And every time you acknowledge your interruptions, because as you know, we're going to be interrupted. So every time you acknowledge your interruption, I don't want you to let it define you or define your idea, like where you are in your idea, or break that trust, like stop you, right? So acknowledge it. And because you're acknowledging it and you're not going to let it define you, you are adding it to the trust that you have in yourself. You are helping build your self-trust with just doing that. Because we know we get interrupted all the time by stuff, by life. Acknowledge it, say, yeah, I know I can't finish my project I can't finish my idea or work on my idea for the 30 minutes I had reserved. I can only do it for 10 minutes because I have to do this. You're like, okay, that's fine. Go. But do not say, oh, wait, I cannot continue because I will be interrupted. No. Come back and say, okay, I left off over here, so let's continue. So embrace the interruptions, but don't let the interruptions stop you. I want you to you're going to slowly shift your identity. Yay! It's going to shift from I don't follow through to I return no matter what happens. I return to what matters. I return to my ideas. And mama, that shift, that changes everything. Okay? Now, if you take nothing else from this episode, from this video, if you're watching it, I want you to realize that you are not someone who cannot follow through. Okay? I'm going to say you cannot, but I'm going to say that you are not someone who cannot follow through because we all have the potential to follow through. Okay? You are someone who has been trying to grow in a life that is constantly interrupting your continual flow of developing your ideas, working on your ideas. Okay? And just that mindset, that that acknowledgement, that's gonna change your entire story. That's gonna change your entire outlook. That's going to change how you go on from now on when you start working on your idea. Now, just realize that nothing in you is broken. Okay? Nothing is missing. Nothing is failing. It simply means that you need a different way of relating to your idea. Okay? Not pressure, not force, definitely not guilt. You don't want to be guilted into working on your ideas because it takes the fun out of it. But continuity to build that momentum, continuation. Keep on going. And as you keep on going, you're going to just remember one small, visible step at a time, and you begin to trust yourself. If you find that you need a helping hand with starting and continuing on with your project, your idea, I have a 7-day access called From Idea to Done in my community, Creativity and Clarity for Moms on School. The link is down below, and I hope that this will be a blessing to you and help you as you start working and continuing with your ideas. Bye for now.
Hey, Mama. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for choosing to show up for yourself, for your creativity, for your purpose. Now, remember, every day you choose intention. You're choosing to become the woman you're meant to be. And every time you honor your creativity, you're teaching your family what it means to be fully alive. You're not alone in this journey. You're part of a community of moms who are claiming their grounds, embracing their full identity, and transforming their families through creativity. So if you love this episode, please share it with another mom who needs to hear this. And leave a review because it helps other moms find us. Okay, so until next week, keep showing up, keep creating, keep claiming your crown. I'm Christine, and I'll see you in the next episode.